All right. So we are 5 minutes to midnight. Literally 5 minutes to midnight. And I've been doing this ever since, 2011, actually. 2012. And it's finally led up to this point. What is it? Well, I've spent so much time in the conspiracy community and completing everything from day one. What do you mean by completing? By coming to terms with everything that I've been ever resisting, hiding away from, whatever. And it's now led up to this point. And there was a reason why I put in the beginning of the whole J world, I am Generation X. Because I knew even back then, your generation is very important to put out there so they know where I'm coming from. Because each generation has a specific type of blueprint programming, and some can surpass it, others are stuck in it. But each generation have a predominant type of programming that will finally come to surface when all the conditions are right. Okay? And there's no way anyone can anticipate or even know that's in the lay population what was to come. We just were reacting to whatever the system gave to us. And the system watched us do what we did. That's why America is the last greatest experiment. They knew exactly what we were doing. Some people had more of a well, I don't even want to say. Some people were under more observation than others. And that could be in the medical holistic system, or that could be in other systems, school systems, the media, whatever. And it's all data. Every single reaction, whether in politics, religion, and science, has been recorded, is being recorded. Every single story that was told to you, regardless, you're going to find the evidence, and you will find the evidence. You will look for evidence. And you'll say, here's my evidence, here's this. But at the end of the day, it doesn't even matter if it's true or not true, because will you survive to even see what potentially is the next world? Okay? And I'm telling you, there's a billion stories out there. Jeez. When I started embarking in the truther movement, there were so many stories and so many videos and so many websites and so many people, so many groups and so many offshoots and so much resistance. It makes your head spin. It literally makes your head spin. And I went from group to group to group, religion to religion, to belief system to belief system, to political thought process, to another political thought process, scientific dogma. I mean, I'll tell you, I've explored almost everything there is to know, and even there's probably new ones that are out there that I don't even are aware of, but it doesn't even matter. It's all coming from the same thing, resistance, and what's another storyline to offshoot the ones that are already out there. But even, if it is a different storyline, I mean, what's your point? What's your intention? That's the thing, is what is your intention with all your storylines? What's the intention of your resistance? What's your intention? And so where I'm coming from is, if you already believe you should die anyways, what's your intention in trying to save the world and get justice for dead people? Get justice for alive people? What's your point? If you haven't even saved yourself, whatever even that means, then that's even up for discussion. So now it's identifying what your intention is behind your truthing, behind your resistance, behind your activism. And you're saying, and if you've been in the activist world, especially the chemtrails world, because that was a big world that I was part of, many people have died in those worlds. I had a lot of people die in the chemtrails world that I used to know from back in 2012. What was it all for? Even the holistic and the anti-GMO and anti-this and anti-that. People have passed away in these movements. And for what? Okay? So then I realized that, yeah, there is such a thing as randomness. There's such a thing as random. Nothing is random. Everything has an order to it. There's a formula, there's an order, there's a reason why it exists. You just happen not to know. until you start piecing together things. And that does take organization of thought. It does take a clear mind and a relatively sound body and relative balance, because that's all up for discussion what that means. But there is no such thing as random in our society. The Rosicrucians are not random. Your society in America is not random. It's planned. Everything in society, in the world, is planned. It's not random. It's not organic. But everything is relative to what, when you're saying organic versus synthetic, it's all relative to the context. When I say the whole J world is more organic, it's because you're not using things to force your body to open and close. You are conditioning your body and feeding it and reinforcing it to adapt to the changes that will inevitably happen. And when people are in resistance to changes, that's when you get breakage breakage. Regardless of too little resistance or too much resistance, you get breakage because lack of conditioning. So it's like, holy shit. It's just, and it comes down to conditioning. Everything is about conditioning. Everything comes down to conditioning. And you can't just throw people into situations and expect them, into situations that are so foreign to them and expect them to thrive. It has to be a transition process. Just like you can't quit drugs cold turkey. You can't even get addicted to drugs cold turkey. It's a conditioning process to be for addictions, and it's a transition process to get off of addictions. Okay? And so there is nothing random in this world. There is some kind of order. You just have to figure out what that order is. And again, the Rosicrucians are not random. And they run your society. I come from a Rosicrucian society. That is the Silicon Valley. That's a compilation of Jewish mystics, Christian Gnostics, the Hermetics, okay? Greek and Egyptian ancient knowledge, alchemy. And that's where you get hi Vicky, that's where you get all of the religions, is all balled up into one. And then you have the energy healing world, you have your activists, you have your religious people, you have those that are chasing academics, chasing power, prestige, and pleasure and paradise, sexual orientation, family. Then you've seen all the different spider veins that are splintering off into their respective areas, and some will survive and others won't, and everything is left up for people's choices. And you're supposed to be given all the information. Now, you're not going to get all the information from the government, because either you'll be like, oh my God, or you won't believe them. That's why the government doesn't say too much except for what is through the rule of law. That's why I posted that reel with George Bush Sr. talking about the New World Order. It's the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, that will govern the conduct of nations. And they will be successful. They are successful. It is the rule of law. The law of biology, the law of thermodynamics, the law of motion, the law of your society. And sometimes the laws change based upon biology and tolerance and culture. Some people will resist it. Others will be like, okay, it's none of my business what they do or do not do. Okay? So there is nothing random in this world. Nothing. Even you are not random. You were planned. You've been manipulated into an activist for or against something. So even those in the truther community that know what is going on and they're trying to resist things and trying to create awareness. You've been manipulated too. I was manipulated into the anti-Vs. I was manipulated into the chemtrail stuff. I remember putting my husband's money towards those flyers back in the chemtrails community and trying to pass them out to all the businesses over there in Lake City, Florida, when I got radicalized into waking up. I remember when I was into all that. And the holistics. Taking borax, laundry detergent to try to fight my PMS. Doing horrible things to myself in the holistic world, taking things that were not FDA approved for anything, but thinking that I knew better because the government sucked. And I'm sure I had to deal with a lot of that damage the last 7 years from the last 12 years of trying to remedy away my diseases and taking all these different medications and hormone replacement therapy and laundry detergent and all the things that people were recommending in the holistic world in reaction to disease, causing future harm to myself, if not then, at that time. Okay? And so when I discovered the J world, the J juice and all that, and then I had ideas about longevity and immortality, and I had the panacea, the cure-all, which you don't want to have. You do not want to have a cure-all. Cure-all means death. That's what panacea is. But when you've been fighting disease forever and everyone's laughing at you because they don't believe it exists, they think it's in your head and they call you lazy, and you're just fighting to say, hey, I have a condition that you're not aware of because of the innovation I underwent through who knows how long or how many years, then you're like, well, I found the thing that calmed down everything, that released the weight and gave me a relative equilibrium so I could think and redirect and have some kind of relief. Yeah, and that was the J juice. But again, you could not stay on that J juice. I mean, it was great before the pandemic because it was the ions, the ionic energy that was missing, because I'm blood type O. So if I didn't get something like salt or coffee, right, then I was going to feel sluggish and feel like I was, ugh. That's why, again, blood type O's need the coffee, because it's the adrenal glands that it is helping catalyze energy to bring movement and motivation. But the salt was what I was missing. And they kept salt off the table when I was a kid. They kept sugar off the table when I was a kid. They kept a lot of the junk food off the table when I was a kid. But I was definitely salt deficient, electrolyte deficient. But again, you can always overdo it, especially if you have a certain blood type that's already highly ionic. And then you would not be able to evolve because your blood type's working against you. The Rh negative, and then the blood type A and B, and then also the salt and the environment. So when you have all those things working against you, there's no evolution. You're not going to be able to take on substance to give you that reserve lifelines, and then one day you don't wake up because you don't have enough reserves. You don't have enough adipose tissue or fat. You don't have enough give. That's why it's dangerous to be very skinny in this world, especially trying to remedy away disease, because where do you want to end up? Using up your last lifeline? Okay, so when I discovered the J world and realized that I found a way to give me some kind of relief, that was not the end of the story. It was not to be cured. You don't want to have a panacea. You don't want a cure-all. Don't think that ivermectin is a cure-all. Don't think that any of these detoxes and recommendations you find in the anti-V world is going to help you 100%, because you're in an environment that is causing rapid amount of growth. And when you're taking things that are opposite, when you're a probiotic, you're taking some kind of antibiotic, you're developing offspring. That offspring will turn into a monster and also be converted into the monster that already is within, and that causes then the Ides suddenly. That's what causes all these different diagnosable conditions and exotic diseases. So I do not want anyone to think that the J juice is the panacea, but see, then in that time, it was okay, but in this time, you don't want anything highly ionic, and even your blood type you have to watch out for, because it could cure you, your blood type, in a highly ionic environment. And then that's why you're seeing people who are so skinny, who can't gain weight, who are dying suddenly out there. That's why it's so scary for those who are so skinny. You don't have enough lifelines to convert energy. You don't have enough reserves. You don't have any savings. You're going now into your principle, into your core. And when you're using up all your money, when you've depleted your bank account and now you are bankrupt, that's when these kids and adults die suddenly, because they don't have enough reserves. They don't have enough lifelines. They didn't understand the world they lived in. They didn't understand their blood type. They didn't understand their lifestyle. They resisted everything. And then there you go. And so all truth, and I said this even way back when people were resisting my claims about regrowing limbs arms and organs if you were born without them, curing everything, right? I mean, it's possible, but not with the J juice. It's possible with food. I mean, not that I have any proof, but theoretically, if you ate all food in the food supply and you didn't use antibiotics to stop the growth and the evolution, if you can handle the pain of regrowing an arm and a leg and a limb and an organ, even if you're born without them, and go through that change, which is so painful, if you can handle the pain, potentially, but I couldn't make those claims. I couldn't prove it. But the whole thing with immortality is possible if you can handle surpassing the Hayflick limit and handle what I've handled the last 3 years, which was such aggressive conditions that would cause me to be crawling up the stairs with no energy, no movement. Everything's dry up here, dry down there. No water can penetrate the mycoplasma or whatever the hell it was that was taking me over at that time, that caused me just to lay in bed and not move and feel like I have a headache, that caused me to then say intellectually, I had to throw myself in the shower and pull out those Tootsie Rolls because that's what is causing this issue. I have to get things moving. And when you're that sick to get things moving, wow, that you have to now intellectually tell yourself to get things moving. Not everybody survives that. Not everybody survives that type of situation. And so when I was making claims of immortality, yeah, as long as you can go through those processes, but maybe people can't. But I said all truth passes through 3 stages. First, it's ridiculed. Oh, I got ridiculed. I tell you, I underwent so much ridicule you would not believe. And then it was violently opposed. It was the death threats. It was the stalkers. It was the predators in our society that wanted to shut down evolution, or it was my government messing with me, radicalizing me, or gaslighting me. I don't know, but now you'll never know who people are. So now I don't even react to them because it could be the government just trying to antagonize me to get more innovation, or it could be some organic person who just has a bone to pick because their predatory behaviors are coming out in this environment. And that is really what's going on too, is we have a lot of predators in our society who are coming to surface, and this environment is catalyzing their energy. Anything that looks different or sounds different, they're out there trying to destroy it. So there's 2 sides, and I have no idea who is contacting me, so I don't even bother to deal with it. I don't care. Block and delete, and who cares? I already said thank you, Dr. Phil, for bringing to light everything about the medical system, the holistic system, even what I was claiming to do, and I had to evolve from. But even though I may have been wrong on one area about using a J juice as a cure when you shouldn't be making claims, there's no guarantee, the immortality, the 300 years potentially, was something else that deserved consideration and needed to be explored. And then the sexual orientation, there is no discrimination. There was never discrimination. But sexual orientation and sexuality, well, that also leads to fertility and then potentially even taking away lifelines for that individual. So then even the J world can claim that if you release demons and all that and ate all the food, that potentially you wouldn't want to be so sexual regardless of orientation. And maybe eventually, yes, like right now, I am menopause. I have menopause, but I'm not having the issues that women who are menopausal have. I already dealt with all that menopause ever since I was 25. Now, I know back then when I was 25, I don't remember getting hot flashes, but it was first the psychological, and it was a progressive. And finally, when they sped up the environment back in 2019, then it was, actually, I was feeling the heat. Even when I was catalyzing energy with the J juice, I was feeling the heat, I was feeling the coldness, but it was when the environment changed did I feel the heat and the sweating. And so the system catalyzed the menopause. Didn't mean I have to die from it. I'd have to learn how to react to it so I could save myself. So the whole J world is saying that you don't need to be a mother. You don't need to have a bunch of children. You don't need to have so much fertility and trying to keep up with people out there as far as looking hot and all that stuff. That now it's about survival, longevity, and brain function. So I said, yeah, all truth passes through 3 stages. First is ridiculed. Second is violently opposed. And then third, which is finally now what I've come to terms with, and a lot of people are realizing that they've spun their wheels for so many years. the same people still love them. The people that resisted them are the same people. They didn't see too much conversion from their friends and family because they were too far gone or whatever. And they're just tired. There was no way they were going to wake up the world and have them turn into Jehovah's Witness or turn into a truther or an anti-chemtrails or anti-GMO or anti-V or pro. There was no way you were going to go and convert somebody just because of what you said and what you did on Facebook. Okay? So third is accepted as self-evident. And so climate change, smart cities, disease X, Y, and Z. Climate change is already here. It's already here. It's going to be self-evident. It already is self-evident. Smart cities, we're seeing now potentially the kickoff to these smart cities. And it will be a narrative that will be palatable for the masses that they can accept because they've already been experiencing kids doing stupid stuff. They've already been experiencing weather doing stupid stuff. They've already been experiencing so much stuff. So if there's an uptick in the weather and people doing stupid shit and or politics with the whole immigration stuff, they'd be like, oh gosh, we told you they should have closed the borders back then and now we're getting invaded and they're doing this. And so then that storyline is going to feed into then somehow there's going to be some kind of invasion and then everyone's going to have to stay home, stay safe, and, lockdowns potentially. Hey, random stops, papers, please. Are you a citizen? Are you not? And the roundup of people who are not citizens, and then those who are resisting. And then you realize that those in the right wing who are resisting all this stuff because of borders and this and that, and then people are getting arrested and they want papers, please. Right wing will bring this in. It'll bring in the more of the authoritarian side of it. That's what I'm saying. The left kind of, developed the problem, and then the right's going to bring it in, and they have their solution. They're going to be the authoritarians in your society. And even that will be regulated. And so then no matter which side you're on, left or right, either you're going to resist and be thrown in jail or pass away because of a situation, or you can be like, I'm going to stay home and stay safe and not get caught up in the crossfire or some plane not, whatever. So that's the thing. No matter what, all the separation that we have, Democrat, Republican, truth or mainstreamer, will all end up into the top of the pyramid and we'll be on the same page, even with all the different storylines. We're either going to stay home or stay safe, or we're going to resist. And either way, you think you're going to survive resisting your fellow man, saying, hey, we don't know who you are. I want to see your papers. I'm not going to show you my papers. I am an American citizen. I have rights, and I will not show you my papers. And then they get hauled off to jail. Okay. And so, yeah, the 15-minute cities, but the 15-minute cities type of thing. What kind of populations can be in 15-minute cities? And you know that we're going to scale down because you're about the Georgia Guidestones. There's so many storylines, but when you realize that there is a main storyline that was taken down over there in Georgia, you have no idea who took that down. You have no idea who bombed the Georgia Guidestones in Georgia. It was there for a reason, to give you a warning since the 80s. And the truther community came out and was like, oh, what's this? Right? And then when they finally realized, okay, people know about it, and there's an event around it where it was destroyed, and now it lives forever on the internet. A lot of people are aware. So it's accepted as self-evident. So climate change, smart cities, disease X, Y, and Z. I'm telling you gotta have some kind of give to you. Fatty acid, amino acid, prohormones, and minerals. You can't be too skinny. Because when your heart is beating out of your chest, and then you try to resist it and try to stop it, and you don't have enough substance to help with the absorption of that energy. Breakage. You don't want breakage. You don't want to cure yourself with anything, and you don't want breakage. You have to give your body something to work with so it can survive everything that you're doing. Can you imagine going anywhere and you're not surviving the situation? So disease X, Y, and Z is when there is a lot more energy in the environment causing than people to run their hamster wheel so fast that it causes breakage. Okay? So I let my hamster wheel run fast when it needs to, especially when the climate changes and I get hives or something and I feel it. I don't try to stop it. I feed it. When I get hives, I feed the energy. When I have my heart beat really fast, I feed the energy. And I go to sleep when I need to. It's when you don't feel anything is the scariest of all. When you know you're in an environment that is pretty dynamic and people are dying around you. Do you know the path to death, if it's not supported correctly, the path to death, that ends up in death, is sickness. That's what people don't realize, that when you get a disease, when you get mucus, you get a disease, you feel something, that is your lifeline to let you know you need to support that energy. But if you feel nothing and people around you are getting sick and or dropping like flies and you feel nothing and you're not shitting your brains out or you're not nose bleeding or you're not doing, and you feel nothing, you're just cured, that is the scariest situation to be in, because it could be any time that the environment changes and you would not survive it, because the resistance in your body, mind, and spirit is so aggressive. And you're also deteriorating because you're in a cured state, so you're not evolving, you're not taking on substance or releasing demons. And so the deterioration would then weaken your blood vessels and heart and lungs and everything. And then it's just game over at any point in time. The sickness was letting you know, was the indicators that you are conditioning for the environment. Trying to stop sickness is then going to cause a person supernova and not survive the next energy conversion. That's where the anti-people, no matter what, have done a disservice to themselves and society. But again, you couldn't tell them that. They were not ready to hear that because they were not ready to feel sickness. They were trying to resist the changes. And when you resist the changes, like the New World Order or evolution or anything, you'll end up in jail or you end up dead. One of the two, or both. In jail, dead or in jail. And so that's disease X, Y, and Z. People have nosebleeds, yeah, the thin membrane because they didn't reinforce their nostrils. This is your immune system. Up here is your immune system. Down there is your immune system. Right? When I had the nosebleeds a couple months back, last year, I didn't bleed to death because I had the clotting factors. I remember when I was like 10 years ago and I had a nosebleed, I had to go like this and I would feel the blood just go down my throat. I was like, geez, I'm like a fucking vampire. I'm feeding off myself. It's real weird. So, so if I hadn't done eating all the food in the food supply and dealing with the pain and all that, I would have had cancer or who knows, or bleed to death. And so disease X, Y, and Z is very scary for those who are in major resistance to cancer, who are in major resistance to everything. I don't even say cancer or disease because that's, when you're getting treated for something, that's your lifeline to help you redirect, but people are not taking advantage of those lifelines. They are taking themselves notch by notch. But if you get no disease in this environment, no sickness, and you're using my juice or using other things to remedy it away, I'm scared for you. I'm really scared for you. And so I said, March will come in like a lion and end up like a sacrificial lamb. Beware of the Ides of March. Because March, that's, with Trump going through that court case. We have the spring equinox. That's when the springtime storms, spring allergy season. Right now we're February 17th and it's like, 21 degrees out. We just had a snowstorm. So we had a major drop in temperature, which I felt the last few weeks, the rising and the falling of the temperatures. I had the hives to prove it, and I ate the food, and I got some sleep. And so when it warms up again, that'll be spring allergy season. That'll be another hamster wheel going its marathon, and not everyone's going to survive the machines running them. Okay, so then we hear about April 8th. From the context of the warnings from the Butler County Sheriff and the Summit County Sheriff's Office, Northeast Ohio needs to be prepared. Sirens invasion or upturn of the climate died suddenly. Heart attacks. You will never know. See, that's the thing. When I hear all the sirens, I don't know where they're heading to. I don't know if it's someone having an issue, having a standoff, or there's an accident from what? Someone crashed into another. But what was the catalyst? Oh, they had a heart attack or a stroke behind the wheel, and they crashed into someone that developed a chain reaction of events, and someone ended up in the, right into the post office or right into some, front end of a business. But when you have a standoff or car accident or someone at home suffering a heart attack and they called 911, you don't know unless you hear a scanner. But when it happens so often, sometimes some of these scanner groups that are like crime watch groups or whatever groups are like, well, we're not going to report every single heart attack, call, because then it'd be like, people be like, what the hell? When you have 50 calls that are all heart attacks, you're going to go on Facebook and list out there was a heart attack at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, at all times of the day. Then you're like, well, okay, now I'll just report the most influential that would affect the general population, like a standoff, like a robbery, like maybe a major car accident. But when you're one of those that listen to the scanners and listen to all the calls of the ambulance and the police and the fire department, and it's heart attack after heart attack, even that person will be like, oh my God, what the hell? And they don't want to be run like that. That's too much to report all the time. And then I also would alert people to be like, what is going on? Why are we having a billion heart attacks? And people, what they blame it on. Okay, so sirens, invasion, or upturn of the climate died suddenly, heart attacks. You'll never know. If you are home, you'll be given a palatable storyline. I don't care if you don't believe it. It's a palatable storyline. If you are stuck in traffic jams and people are dying suddenly behind the wheel, how will you know if it was from an invasion or people succumbing to climate change? That is why you stay home, so you don't get caught in the crossfire. So Ohio, on 4/8, stay home if possible. Okay, Summit County, it's Cleveland. Akron, Cleveland. It's above me. I'm Stark County, and even some of the schools here, I don't know if they're closed. But on 4/8, stay home if possible. Eclipse will cause traffic jams and highly unpredictable events that you will not know where it might have originated from. If you are at home, you will hear sirens, but not know why. You will also be given a story like an invasion, but heart attacks, die suddenly might not be on your radar as an invasion, but biologically it is. When there's a change in the environment and you already have things that are like kind of stuck over here because you had a strong enough immune system to keep it at bay, and then the environment catalyzed and woke it up and broke through the cure, then it's invading your body, and then people don't always survive that invasion within their own biological immune system. No different than some people don't survive some of the invasion that might be orchestrated out there, okay? So see how that works? It's still an invasion, but maybe biologically, maybe externally or internally, and you'll never know. Invasion could be died suddenly or an actual immigration invasion. You'll never know which one it is, and it could be both, of course. No matter what, stay out of harm's way and listen to government when they say stay home. And I see people, when the Butler County was saying stay home, or the Summit County, one of the two. Yeah, no, it was Summit County, not Butler County. Summit County said stay home. People are like, no, I'm going to go out there. I'm not listening to you, Mr. Sheriff. I'm doing the complete opposite. Those are the people that are going to get caught somewhere. And they could die suddenly, or they can get caught somewhere where, who knows? You see how resistance can shoot you in the booty, right? You see how you can put yourself in harm's way when you resist? Oh, yeah. From the micro to the macro. You resist down here, you resist out there, it's not going to work to your favor. Which is why many schools are closed during that time. The kids need to be at home. How many of you hear sirens, you look at the crime watch groups, scanners, or your friends posted something? Not everyone knows what causes so many sirens to happen. But when you have so many events happening simultaneously, you don't want to know where they originated from and why all the sirens. You really don't want to know, because once you do know, you might not like it. Or you'll be like, holy crap. Or you might not even survive it because you'll be caught somewhere in between the situations. Just believe the official narrative, even if you question it, because it doesn't matter if you believe it or not. It is the official narrative. It doesn't matter whether or not 9/11 was an inside job or an outside job. It doesn't even matter. You survived it. Those did it. Okay, end of story. You'll never know if something was organic or synthetic. And that's where I use the word organic, the term organic, because that's how people understand that it doesn't matter if it was an inside job or not. Can you prove it? And if you can prove it, what did people know and when did they know it? Plausible deniability. And you want to go down that fucking road and spin your wheels doing that? Okay, that's really good use of your time. If you survive situations, why are you trying to get justice for a stranger? Well, because it happened to me. Well, then don't put yourself in stupid situations. And if you die, you die, because then there's nothing you can do. So if you live and you survive situations and someone tells you, hey, here's indicators how not to get caught up in something that could be out of your control, then maybe you might listen to the indicators. But if you're like, oh, I'm going to resist everything, and yeah, I know people are doing shit purposely, or it's organic, or it's synthetic, and you're still going to put yourself in that situation, isn't that a little weird? Why would you put yourself in situations that you know are synthetic? That is contrived. Why would you do that? To prove a point, and then you pass away, and you end up doing what they want you to do anyways, to self-annihilate. See, it's all fucking psychological. Oh my gosh. No point in resisting any official narrative. Be the one to survive it. Because if you don't survive, it doesn't matter. You're dead. Okay? This is when resistance will not serve you. It doesn't serve you anyways, but I resist people trying to destroy me. So I just sidestep them. Okay? There's times when you should resist. If someone is coming at you and they corner you, then you resist that. But you don't put yourself in a position for someone to corner you. So unless you are in a position where someone actually is backing you into a corner, there's no reason to resist anything. So you can be caught in something that you cannot get out of if you resist the government or resist warnings. And make sure you have at least 3 days supply of food and water. Always have gallons of water and canned foods on hand. You need to be prepared to take care of everyone. See, I cannot afford to be cavalier. I have to prepare for everything, especially when my own state is going through warnings from different sheriff's offices. When you have the Butler County telling us that we're in a bad way and a lot of stuff going on and whatever, and there's some credible threats and chatter, and they just came back from the DC of all the sheriffs in the whole world. Okay. 3,000 sheriffs all congregating together in DC being told, shit's coming down the freaking pipeline. Get your people prepared and ready. And we know about smart cities. We know about all the things that are going on, but you have no idea how this playbook is going to pan out. You hear stuff like we see on the Facebook Reels, somebody taking down cameras in San Diego, and San Diego is on the list of one of the smart cities to be rolled out at some point. San Diego, Waterloo, Iowa, Kansas, I think, yeah. Is it Kansas? Yeah. Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky. Cleveland. Okay? So I cannot afford to be cavalier. This is how they're going to get everybody on the same page. Conspiracy theorists and mainstreamers alike. It doesn't matter if you don't believe anything. The choices you make reacting to warnings and situations will determine your outcome and longevity. The system is not going to stop you from doing whatever you want to do, traveling or whatever. They're not going to stop you. I don't want to scare you, but it's kind of scary out there. I want you guys to have fun, but yeah, it's gambling out there. Planes, trains, and automobiles, and now with all these energy bolts that are coming through and all that stuff, air that is unstable. If that Netflix show Leave the World Behind hasn't kind of given you a clue on what to expect this year in the future, sometimes you have to learn the hard way, and I hope you survive it. But still, I want you guys to have a good life, whatever that means. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you don't believe anything. The choices you make reacting to warnings and situations will determine your outcome and longevity. And as things happen, for you or against you, you have no one to blame but yourself because you made the choices despite the warnings. That's how the system will weed out those who don't understand the world they live in, and also give people a chance to change their minds about stuff at the 11th hour. You can turn into a mainstreamer anytime, okay, and still save yourself. The truther community did their job and prepared everyone for the change. You can relax now. Your work is done. And that's why I said have at least 3 days of food and water prepared for every member of the family for any situation. 1 gallon of water for each person for 3 days. Can opener, canned food. Eat through your perishables first, then go to non-perishables. I would not assume that it'll be a total breakdown of society. It will be a controlled demolition, and it will look like many things that will be palatable, and that you'll be like, okay, I've heard this story before. Okay. Because the Butler County Sheriff said, stay home and stay safe and defend yourself. You cannot be offensive. You cannot go and hunt people that look like the enemy to you. There's no way for you to know. I mean, back then in the Civil War, they had their costumes, the Yankees and the Confederates. Okay, that was easy to determine who was the enemy and who wasn't. Now, you don't know who anyone is. Now you got to stay home and stay safe and be on the defense, not the offense. Regardless, believe whatever official narrative that's out there, because it doesn't matter if you don't believe it. You better survive it. You don't want to end up in jail or pass away because of a situation. Okay? And so remember what the Summit County Sheriff told you. Stay home and stay safe. April 8, 2024. The system must tear things down to build back up again. No good crisis goes to waste. And so I was trying to figure out why is it that the Summit County Sheriff is saying that April 8th, stay home and stay safe because the eclipse? Because, they said it would pass through Cleveland. It would be the best viewing point in Cleveland. But you can start counting the other places. And so how many people are they expecting? That's a lot of people, a lot of chaos, a lot of strangers in my town. Not even really my town, but like up there in Cleveland, Akron. Okay, so when you have a lot of strangers, people from all over, and you're expecting them to come in, oh, what a perfect time for an energy conversion. Cleveland will be the first smart city, because we knew even back in 2012. Back then, when I was a truther, smart cities. I was listening to Alex Jones and Rosa Quarry, who is on Alex Jones, talking about the smart cities, the green sustainable movement, used as a way to control people and do this and do that. And I mean, they weren't wrong, but they couldn't stop it. But they were used as tools to get the word out. And I was part of all that. I was radicalized on the truck with my husband. We were on the truck together. I mean, I was listening to stuff on YouTube anyways. The Obama deception, that's when I discovered Alex Jones. And then my husband and I were on the truck together, and he was driving, and I was listening, and I fall asleep during the day because of my PMS. And then at night, I'd be up all night because I was sleeping all day, listening to YouTube video after YouTube video after YouTube video, and getting so deep into the truth world, getting so deep in the holistic world that I knew that the smart cities. And then when I was in Florida, my husband was team driving, had his own little company, team driving with people. And I was at home plunking on my computer with my little pets. What were they? The little reptiles, bearded dragon, whatever. And I'm just like, oh my God, the smart cities. Oh my God, it's going to be like the Hunger Games. I don't know if I said that back then. I might have. But yeah, back then it was like 2011, 2012. Yeah. 2013. And then part of the chemtrails activists. And then making those brochures. And I would go to the Chemtrails Global Skywatch, and Russ Tanner, who is the leader in that. And some of you know who he is. He's still out there. He's in Maryland. I think, what is he, in Maine or Maine or something like that? He's still talking about stuff. But I was part of the whole Chemtrails Global Skywatch, and then went to the Chemtrails, the weakest link in the chain. I was a moderator and playing God, of being an admin and all that, and then got into Jilly Juice stuff, and then had everyone attack me. So anyway, so I knew about the smart cities. And smart cities is everything within reach, like mixed use buildings, residential, commercial, restaurants, business, all in one little city, 15 minutes, less energy being used and all that. Of course, less people too, right? And so Cleveland will be the first smart city, and that is in Summit County. That's in Cleveland, Akron. So now that's where I made that connection, that that whole X that you saw, Nineveh and Jerusalem or Salem, and the April 8th and the eclipse, and then Cleveland is going to be the first smart city, and then you hear about the Ides of March, and you hear about what the eclipse means and all the numbers. And oh my gosh, it's like so. It's like if you want to write a book, you'd have to take in everything. It's overwhelming, the amount of information and the connections made. It's overwhelming. How do you even cover everything? But people do. And so in October 2022, Cleveland was one of the 5 cities selected to participate in the Smart City Accelerator program. The program is a collaboration between Honeywell and Accelerator for America, and also includes Louisville, Kansas City. So it's not Kansas, it was Kansas City, Missouri, and then Kansas City Chiefs and all of that. And they have that shooting and all that. And then the Superb Owl, and then you have San Diego, and then Waterloo. That's in Iowa. I thought it was like Waterloo, Belgium, but it's Iowa. This is America, right? Accelerator for America. So Cleveland's participation in the program will involve technical support to develop a smart city strategic plan. The plan will help define priorities, align stakeholders, and identify initiatives that improve the quality of life for residents. So even though right now people's quality of life is going to be kind of crazy, the end result is going to be a better quality of life if you can handle the demolition. If you can stay home and stay safe and wear a mask. I mean, you don't have to wear a mask, but I'm saying if you don't resist, then eventually your quality of life, but even then, will you survive your own immune system? So it doesn't even matter if you survive or not survive the demolition for the smart cities. It's will you survive your own immune system during these climate changes. So Cleveland is also working towards becoming the first city in North America to implement a 15-minute city planning framework. Holy shit. This concept involves designing cities where people can access essential services within a 15-minute walk, bike, ride, or public transportation ride. Services include supermarkets, pharmacies, schools, leisure, and workplaces. It sounds great. It sounds like going to an all-inclusive resort. Actually, when you think about it, when I was in China and there was a resort that had everything, it had everything within its own little enclave. And on the outside were guards, okay? And then there was poor people on the outside of that 15-minute city. Because there was like a nice water, there was a hotel room, there was a restaurant, there was a stage for performances, there was music, and it was like its own little self-contained little oasis in the midst of all this poverty. That was in China. They were doing smart cities in China. Holy shit. Now that I think about it. And then when I was in DC for a minute visiting somebody, and there was a smart city there where it had the high-rise buildings, and they had the Starbucks and the restaurant and a business and commercial stuff all in one little area. So you can be up in your room and then go down to eat and go listen to music and drink, and you wouldn't have to leave anywhere. You don't have to go anywhere. You can be drunk down there and then just be and then walk your way to the elevators to your house all the way up there. And that's what they're trying to do. And so if you wanted to travel somewhere else, then of course they would have that, and you'd have to have so many, who knows how much money you would have to travel somewhere else. And I'm sure even that's getting retrofitted as far as the planes and the travel and the tourism, okay? And so is it deploy? I just copied and pasted the last 2 things that they had. So deploy, because they had like a list of the bullet points on what they had to do first. So I started from number 8. It's finally time to launch your initial initiative. Prior to go live, train the relevant individuals. So maybe we're going live for 4-8. So maybe we're in number 8, the deployment of the smart cities. Okay, so it's finally time to launch your initiative. Prior to go live, train the relevant individuals on their duties for go live day. This includes help desk staff, database administrators, and third-party staff furthermore develop and implement a customer communication plan. So, of course, you have the Summit County, Butler County telling you, shit's going to happen. Stay home, stay safe. We're not in a good way. We're getting attacked. Da, 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 da. Remember, all these different narratives are there for a reason. You don't need to know what you don't need to know what the intention and the outcome. You already know, but again, there's got to be storylines to justify what is going on, and it doesn't matter if you believe it or not. And it could happen, and so I'm saying you just get to understand. This is kind of a trippy rollout because we have so many conflicting storylines out there. So include when a project is going to live, how this will affect them and how they can provide feedback as far as the customer communication plan. Be sure to show gratitude for their patience in your effort to make the city smarter. And then number 9 is assess, improve, and repeat. What went right in the rollout? So if Cleveland is going to be the first smart city and we're going to be like a guinea pig, you can only imagine what happens with the firstborn. All the mistakes are made with the firstborn. Then things get better with the secondborn. Things get even better with the thirdborn. And then things get even better with the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, right? So if we're the first guinea pig, oh, you can only imagine. So those in Ohio, we're strong enough because we have the body types and all that to probably deal with climate change and whatever. So better here than somewhere like in some wimpy West Coast town full of yoga people, right? Who weigh next to nothing. You'd be like, oh my God, and be so shocked. Right? So what went right in the rollout? What could have been better? Assess the deployment, how quickly it occurred, troubleshooting, public response, and document for future use. Update the inefficiencies found in the initiative on a continual basis. The transformation into a smart city doesn't end after the launch of your first initiative. The city of Columbus published 5 lessons they've learned in how to best launch and operate a smart city initiative. The lesson includes a demolition of silos. Okay, so there's functional silos, which could be just your different departments within agencies, and it could be actual silos, like buildings. Okay, so the lessons include a demolition of silos within strong leadership, consistently communicate with process owners and stakeholders, and getting as many citizens involved as possible. So then you have the Butler County Sheriff saying, okay, we need people 30 at a time to, train in arms and whatever. So you're seeing getting as many citizens volunteering involved as possible. The strategic plan should be a dynamic, ever-improving vehicle to guide the city forward. The strategic plan should be a dynamic, ever-improving vehicle to guide the city forward. Whether it's your first or 50th initiative, follow these implementation steps will improve your success rate. That's what we got to read between the lines. See, I understand about functional silos because that's part of the ITIL, which is a type of platform. It's an IT infrastructure library and business process engineering, re-engineering, and how do you establish change. And change management was huge back in the early 2000s. That was part of a lot of the majors in some of these, in Chapman University and other universities, organizational development, team building, developing plans for change, going in and changing the IT infrastructure, changing everything from the enterprise level to the service level. How do you implement change to a bunch of dinosaurs who don't want to fucking change? Well, it's a process. And people get a lot of resistance. Yeah, they knew, even Microsoft and other places, people resisted the change. And how do you deal with resistance? Sometimes you have to fire them because they can't freaking evolve. Some people are not going to survive the changes because they've resisted so hard. Okay, so I learned this stuff even back when I was at Chapman, going to my organizational development classes, working with IT executives or going to school with them, going to school with people who work in the government. Even people on my Facebook, some of them I've been to school with at Chapman. They got their degree, I dropped out and did my own thing. Okay, so I've been exposed to some of this stuff. So anyways, change management is exactly, back then, is what is being rolled out. It's a 20-year plan. So you have the change management, the organizational development in the early 2000s, right after 9/11, and then you have the conspiracy world, and then the rollout, getting people prepared for that change. and seeing who comes up in the Gen X world. You have the Elon Musk, the Alex Jones, Joe Rogan, the Jilly world, anyone else, you know, all the different politicians, Candace, whatever, Owens, okay? And you have the Taylor Swifts and all that. So the Hall of Fame Village here in Stark County is the first smart city in Stark County. So we have our own smart city that they're going to roll out and test. And I said something about the Social Security scams and everything. But I said, man, I'm getting... So in the conspiracy world, and I've heard from Alex Jones, okay, he was talking about the Council of Foreign Relations. And we heard about people who didn't like, what was his name? The one that died, he's 100 years old. I have his face, he has curly-ish hair. He died recently. Oh my God, I wish I knew who he is. I wish I knew his name. But anyways, he's part of the CFR. And he was part of the Vietnam War. He was the one that people didn't like that caused all that bombing in Laos and all that stuff. But anyways, everyone is getting retrofitted for the new world. So the Council of Foreign Relations is how the system is retrofitting every single continent and culture out there for the new change. Okay, you never were supposed to stop what is coming. Now you must survive it. So every continent and every culture, Kissinger, thank you, Robert, Kissinger, Henry Kissinger, yes. He is part, and yeah, you would know this because we were talking about this way back when. Geez, that's right. See, some of you guys have been around for a while on my page. But yes, Henry Kissinger, he passed away. He was one of the representation of the Council of Foreign Relations. And I know Alex Jones mentioned him many times. And people did not like him because of what he was rolling out and what he was doing. And he's part of the whole rolling out the whole New World Order, okay? And so you never were supposed to stop what is coming. Now you must survive it. Your resistance, regardless if you put your head in the sand or you punch air, will be your undoing. Your ignorance or lack of ignorance, both extremes will destroy people. You could be so full of knowledge, you supernova. You could be so ignorant of knowledge, and you supernova. It's not what you know. Because what is that you know? Is it going to help you, or is it going to help the future? Is it going to help anyone? It doesn't matter what you know. It's who you know. Okay? Who will destroy you or push you forward. Some of you are so loyal to people, placing things that are destroying you. It doesn't matter what you know. And adopt any storyline you want. Whatever helps you get through. But the system knew what they had to do to get people prepared for the new world. The key to gambling is quit in your head and finally acknowledge the house will always win. Okay, you didn't build a house. I came in here from Vietnam. I wasn't part of the founding fathers in that genetic line. Even if I was, I'm a person many generations removed from the beginning of America. Okay, so I didn't build this house. This house was built 300-400 years ago. You were brought to the house. You didn't write the playbook. You're reacting to it. Know your place, because the system will put you in your place. They put me in my place, and I understood exactly what I was dealing with. Oh, once I figured out, okay, they weren't playing, the FTC, the OAG, all the different agencies are coming down on me and all this, and of course all the trolls. And then I was watching some of the Netflix shows of some of the things like the Boston bombing and the Boston this and that, that happened within the last 10 years. And I saw how it could be contrived, and you would never know if someone was brought into a situation that they thought would be something of a simulation, and it turned into actual live situation, and then they were used as a patsy. You don't know. That's the thing. If you can avoid volunteering for the government to help the government do stuff, you could be used as a patsy. You don't want to be used as a patsy. So I realized what I was dealing with. You're dealing with some people who are who have an intention, and they have the public. They have public perception at their fingertips. They can influence public perception, and they can also galvanize people and cause them to do harm if they want to. So you don't want to fuck with your government. You do not want to fuck with your government. Seriously. And you want to listen to them, especially during these times. You're not going to win. They put me in my place. I understood exactly what I was dealing with. And when I figured out exactly who I was dealing with, I was like, holy shit. Then I had to relook at everything. And I did. And when you know that you are not as powerful as you think you are, and you realize there's far more powerful forces working against you than for you, then you better figure out why they're doing it. You better figure out why they're doing what they're doing, because if you don't and you keep resisting, you'll destroy yourself. I figured out very quickly, and I started then taking a look at the other side and intending to understand the other arguments. So I could not come off as one-sided. I had to understand both sides. And you can choose. I mean, the system is giving you access to understand my information. They're not stopping you from reading my book. They're not stopping you from listening to my videos. They haven't taken me off of Facebook. They haven't taken me off the internet. So it's not like they're stopping you from learning a different thought process, but they're not going to go and back it up and say, yeah, this is what's happening, or no, this is not what's happening. That's not their job. Their job is to maintain law and order. And you're getting the choice. Sometimes you'll find out at the 11th hour, the choices you've made because you're so loyal to a person, place, or thing is actually what's going to do you in. But I can't tell you who to be loyal to and who not to be loyal to. That's up to you. If you believe you should die anyways, then it doesn't matter. Do whatever the fuck you want. If you don't want to die, then you have to figure out exactly what it takes to live. And it's not fun. It's painful to stay alive during evolutionary sequences. It's very painful to stay alive during evolutionary sequences, as you will find out, as you have found out. So my advice to all truthers out there, don't go broke being woke. Oh, that's so that's so kitschy, Jillian. Yeah, well, we've seen people out there, they're spending everything. They're mortgaging everything to get the word out. For what? What do you think you're going to do? You can convert everybody all at once? They'll all be like, okay, wake up all at once. We're going to go stop the new one. Yeah, right. No, you know that's not going to happen. And I mean that in body, mind, and spirit. You could be making money and depleting yourself. As you can see, the energy in the environment catalyzes what people predominantly focus on, and also what kind of microbes are on the move in their immune system. So that's why you see the fast-moving cancers and diagnosable conditions and even the died suddenly. Why are some people not reacting to the environment like others, i.e. myself versus my husband? Like I'm reacting to the environment my husband has every so often. Okay? And, and it's, he's one of those of the old world, and he's O negative for the most part, from what I believe. I haven't tested his RH factor, but I know he's O. But, yes, he's probably aging on some level, but he's doing it in a progressive way. And I'm telling him, if you have to shit and train your body to make sure you don't shit your pants all the time. So, he's figuring some stuff out. But why are some people reacting to the environment like others versus myself, i.e. myself versus my husband? Well, I'm O positive, he's O negative. He has a better balance, plus then he has a background of really strong bones and genetic line because he came from Appalachia. So his background of being in Ohio and from Appalachia, from a strong line of German, Scot, Irish, English, whatever, because that's the upperly background. Okay, he's coming from a really great background, and I came from a major deficit. Vietnam during the war, already a deficit, O positive, trying to release demons, okay? So that's why you're seeing me react so much, because I had a lot more to release, plus I'm gaining a lot more because I'm O positive, which means that I'm gaining microbes that I have to deal with, feed, and then release the way I have in my book, and not using J juice anymore because the environment is ionic enough. And so weight is a major factor. When you weigh next to nothing with no extra reserves, energy to convert, no feelings until died suddenly, and if you have feelings of sorts, they get remedied away almost immediately. So weight is a major factor. When you weigh next to nothing with no extra reserves or energy to convert or no feelings until died suddenly, okay, so that's what happens. People don't feel anything. They're trying to remedy away all their pain and suffering. They weigh next to nothing. They're not eating foods because it's causing inflammation. Yeah, you're setting yourself up for a diet suddenly. And if you have feelings of sorts, they get remedied away almost immediately until the principle, your core lifelines, are used up. That's when people start losing vast amounts of weight. And you've seen that right now with girls that used to be weighing a lot more before the pandemic, and now the pandemic has caused their hamster wheel to go really fast. And they're also on different prescription drugs, causing them to lose a lot more weight. And they're losing weight. They're like, oh, look, I'm all sexual. I'm all beautiful. Look at me. I'm so hot. and they're using their lifelines. They're almost using up all their lifelines. They're getting skinnier and skinnier and skinnier. And that's what I did when I was on the J juice. And you saw those pictures of myself and my husband. He looked all beefy and burly that time. He looked hot then, and I looked hot relative to the social construct at the time. But I lost collagen. I lost fat. I lost my immune system. And then when the environment kicked up, like the pandemic, I started gaining weight and I was eating the food, and I knew I needed to eat food. And that was when the pandemic turned and said, okay, now you got to eat all food because you will waste weight in nothing. I knew the physics of what was going on. The environment changed, use up more energy. I had to feed that energy. That's why it was all food, no more J juice. And you had to deal with the pain and feed every pain that you had. Meat, milk, cheese, eggs, everything. When I was on the Jilly Juice, so skinny, I felt nothing. And I was also aging, working with hardly any fat. When I started gaining lifelines, it was when my immune system became activated and the war was on. And that was the last 4 years. And I felt every single one of those microbes move within me, whether it's up here, whether it was in all my joints, whether it was stiff neck, whether it was, going off the deep end and just, ranting about something, or it was such major headaches, or it was stomach aches, or it was major hives, major rashes under armpits. I mean, let me tell you, the system, my body spared nothing spared nothing. They made me deal with everything. And I did. Okay, I did not remedy anything away. I fed everything and pulled out the crap because that was the only thing I can do. Many additional factors. First, the age of the person and their innovation status. Okay, some of you are highly innovative at a younger age. What does that mean, highly innovative? Innovation could be abuse. Innovation could be going to school. Innovation could be somebody doing something to you because of a situation. Innovation could be anything. And it's not for anyone to say, well, you should go get justice for being innovative. No, innovation is innovation. Whether it was through the sciences, whether it was through a family member, whether through a boyfriend or a girlfriend that did something to you that they shouldn't have done to you. Okay, innovation is innovation. Whether it was consensual or non-consensual. Whether it was something done in the medical system because they had to. Okay, it's such a fine line, and you really don't want to go play these games of, well, I'm going to go and get justice for the innovation that I underwent when I was like 5 or 6 or 10. No, there's no justice to be had. You're alive. Figure out how to fucking live. So the age of the person and their innovation status. You are the other person and won't even know innovation and their innovation status because you are the other person, might not even be aware that you are the other person was innovated at such a young age. My guess is if one has been fighting autoimmune disorders and chronic conditions, regardless, PMS, PMDD, cancer disease, chronic illness, whatever, all right, or drug addiction, for many years, chances are the person was innovated very early on, unbeknownst to everyone, even the parents. Okay, some parents give their kids to science. Here, take my kid, do all the operations on them, and then the kid's like, okay, this is great. And then they're dealing with a condition 10 years later. Self-medicating is an indicator of early aggressive innovation as well as current or past addictions. Okay? 2, blood types have much to do with how immune systems reacts to the environment. Blood type O, positive and negative, men seem to fare better and manage our conditions of food intolerances and or weight gain better, but not all of the time. Obesity might have a lot to do with blood type O and sometimes weight gain for O negative during a change in their lifestyle and geographical location. All right, so I noticed that with myself, my husband was skinny like I was back then. My husband was skinny when I met him. He's O negative. I was O positive. I wasn't fat, but other people say I was fat back then, but I wasn't. When I first met him, I was not fat. But some other people that were skinnier than me would say that I was fat back then. But it's all relative again. But then when we got together and then we got on the truck and we were comfortable and we were married too and we're eating gas station pizza and Chef Boyardee, the can and all that because we were living at $400 a week on the truck with no home, living on the truck, we gained the substance. And then we were in Florida, we're eating porterhouse steaks and lobsters. We were making money hand over fist. And porterhouse steaks and lobsters and pastries and drinking alcohol. And I was trying to do all the holistic stuff. And then I was I was drinking whole milk and all that stuff, right? Oh my gosh. So we definitely needed to gain the weight. We had to. And that was a good thing. Okay? So he filled out. Thank God. The truck saved him. Because if my husband was skinny and I was skinny like I was today, back like we were back then, you can only imagine how fast that train could leave the station. And so weight is your insurance policy. Weight is your insurance. So the more weight you have that's relatively balanced, the better off you will be. The better off you will be. And so obesity, when it's morbidly obese, right, might have a lot to do with blood type O and sometimes weight gain for O negative during a change in their lifestyle and geographical location. And that would be my husband and I. Women with O positive and negative will either starve themselves to stay relevant and unevolving or gain the weight relative to the kind of conditions she has had and how she managed them in the past and how she'll manage them in the present. Okay, so I was skinny back then and I gained the weight and then I lost the weight during the jelly juice time and then I gained the weight when the pandemic time, happened. And I did no more remedies and I didn't starve myself and I dealt with all the conditions, everything. And now I'm able to fluctuate with the environment without dealing with too much adversity. I'd rather be itching and mentally aware and intellectually capable than be in pain and suffering. But I had to earn this status versus what I had before. I had to deal with the pain and suffering before I earned the status of itching and innovation. Okay? And if you don't want to earn that status, then you'll do whatever you can to stop it until you can't stop it anymore, until you cannot hold back the deluge of energy conversion. That's the thing that people have to realize is when you hold back pain and suffering, eventually you won't, and you will not be able to, you will not survive that major energy conversion. Okay, so blood types AB and AB with RH plus minus have the higher metabolism. Okay, my husband, negative, higher metabolism. And also seem to be extremely easy to program at a younger age and fight disease when they are older. Okay, so when they're fighting disease when they're older and they fight disease at a younger age, high immunity, autoimmunity with those who are A and B RH negative. That's why they were able to be such geniuses, because nothing stopped them. They were able to be programmed. And they were holding relative equilibrium. They were taking on knowledge, maybe not so much biological knowledge, they're taking on brain knowledge. I remember my mother said that my other sister was the daughter of her mind and I was the daughter of her heart. That should say a lot. Okay? So I knew we were under two different programming. But everything is flipped now. It's kind of weird. But anyway, so the modern current past eggheads in our society, like Steve Jobs, he died, right? And those who have an RH negative, like my husband, Jason, Elon Musk, and even Steve Jobs, they also happen to have blood type O. So my husband's RH negative, and he's O, and he's a fucking genius in a lot of different things. He doesn't come off like it because he's one of those that hold it back. He's a fucking smart dude. I would never cross him because he's a very smart dude. So my husband is fucking smart, and smart recognizes smart. Smart recognizes smart. And so Elon Musk, he's smart, O negative, I guess. I found it on the internet. Could it be true? Yeah, possibly. He reminds me of my husband. And even Steve Jobs. And they also have to have blood type O and RH negative. But the high metabolism, which is why some girls can eat so much food and never gain weight. Why? They're probably because they have a high metabolism because of blood type. That's why blood type O girls cannot compare themselves to blood type A and B, because you're not comparing apples to apples. It's apples to oranges. But blood type O is the optimal blood type because it gives you access to convert energy. It doesn't use up so much of it. However, it is the Albert Einsteins and those extreme geniuses you find in the sciences who take on the blood types A and B, AB with their RH factors. The antigen is what causes the genius energy conversion, which is also why all the current innovation and fast-moving cancers in some blood types, and then the development of the antibodies in their other blood types, which is the balance. So as you know, blood type A and B have antibodies for other blood types, but not for their own. Blood type O have antibodies for both, but the Rh negatives, they have antibodies for the Rh positives, but the Rh positive don't have blood types for the Rh, or the antibodies for the Rh negatives, because you can't make something out of nothing. And so when you finally realize what Rh negative and positive is and what A and B and the antigen antibody, and you realize it's really about binary code, plus and minus. Okay? The negative is the energy. It's the energy that's using up resources. That's the Pac-Man. Okay? The pluses is then the offspring from that energy. And so I don't even know where they all came from. I could not tell you where the blood types originate from. I couldn't tell you. People have their stories, right? They think they're special when they're Rh negative. Oh, I guess. Notwithstanding, it is a lack of antibody protection in some blood types, like A or B or AB, which causes a person to go into their principle to gain lifelines and also feed like spaghetti and milk and meat, because those factors do not have antibodies readily at their disposal, which also explains the vaccines and monoclonal antibodies as a helper to those lacking readily available antibody protection. Okay, not everyone is working with the same immune system capability. So when my husband's around and he activates my immune system, I don't have antibodies to go and counteract his negative energy. It's not that it's bad. He just has energy that's causing me to use up energy. And that's why sometimes when I'm around him, he activates my immune system. And if there's something influential, he wakes it up. And I have to make sure that I feed it and release it. Okay? So being around my husband, I have to eat to make sure I keep up with his energy. That's why I can't compete with him. He has an immune system that is like superhuman when you think about it. That's why I don't compete with him. And he understands now, I think. And so Rh negative are high energy, and there are no antibodies to match Rh negatives, as you cannot make something out of nothing. It is the energy in the environment causing people to supernova in a hail of light, or develop a new genetic line like a baby, or cancer, or disease, or chronic illness, or another virus. Innovation and also inventions. Okay? And so there's so many people managing conditions because the environment is so dynamic. So the reason why I've gotten smarter the last 7 years, more so the last 3 years, because the system gave me energy through the environment that would be in comparison to what are Rh negative, as well as a blood type A and B, who already have that built-in energy conversion, the antigen. Okay, so that's how the system is able to say that you are going to compete on a level playing field, when those who are blood type O will be able to compete with blood type A and B energy-wise, and you better have the intelligence and intellectual capability to put things together, or people will be using things that were working against them back then, even more so now, and they supernova or go to jail or do something stupid. Okay? And so there are so many people managing conditions because the environment is so dynamic. Consequently, if you had more weight on you prior to climate change, you are working with reserves, which are types of lifelines. However, if you came into the climate change weighing less than the average human with a high metabolism, one could surmise they are burning through their lifelines faster, which is why you're seeing now aggressive aging in those who are skinnier than most people. But if they're using creams and Botox and everything else, you will never know until they die suddenly. And they're like, well, it's their time. No, they look good on the outside, but they're falling apart on the inside. Which is why fat or fatty acids and adipose tissues are extremely important to give your heart, lungs, and other vital organs protection against invaders, plus give room for expansion and contraction during barometric pressure drops and increases. As you can see on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, how people are using their energy to stay relevant, even if it's just family and friends. To those who are woke, and the key thing is to survive your wokeness. I see people on YouTube using their energy to pick apart homicide cases of the past and they are burning through their lifelines, resources, punching air, or chasing justice for other people. Yes, they're making money influencing people to stay distracted, focusing on dead cases that won't make a difference in the scheme of things, but at what cost? When I'm listening to an influencer talking about the Chris Watts case, and he's so just, I mean, you can see just how excited this person is, picking apart everything and looking for the holes in the case, and why aren't the investigators asking this person and that person, this and this and that. And they're going through the whole thing of, yeah, smash like and subscribe and contribute to my Patreon account and do this, 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 and this. And you're just like, Jesus Christ, they're certainly working for it, right? And then they say, why do they do it? Because I want justice. The reason why I do this, because I want justice for this person and this person and this person. And I'm like, so what will that give you? What kind of return on that investment that you have put through? Oh, that's right. You brought in people who are giving you money. It's not that you're wanting justice for a dead person. You're making money from wanting justice for that dead person. And so then you start looking, you're seeing beyond the veil. You get down to the root of what the intention is. It's a money-making scheme trying to get justice for other people or for dead people. If the investigators wanted to go after a person, place, or thing, they would. Maybe the reason why they don't is because they want to see these people on Facebook and YouTube be like, oh my God, they purposely overlooked this person. They purposely did not ask the question of this person. And they're watching these people on YouTube just supernova. But again, listening to these influencers, you're just like, oh, so you want justice for a dead person. Okay, but really you want the money from the Patreon accounts and all those donations. Yeah, you see through the bullshit. Anyways, moreover, chemtrail activists might have had a bone to pick with the government and the impending changes they had no idea that they could or could not prevent. And in the past, they did make a valiant attempt trying to stop what is to come. However, at what cost? Their life? Because some of these chemtrail activists that did go up against the government, petition the EPA, they end up in the hospital. They're getting procedures done at the hospital because the amount of energy and resources they used up many lifelines that they're now in deficit. They're in disease. So at what cost was all of that activism? No, activists are helping the government get the word out, and some will influence the system to resist and self-annihilate. As you see that in the anti-everything groups, and some activists are realizing their activism against change is not working and have said they are tired of trying to wake up the world and are just sticking to like minds. Well, finally, you fucking get it. Psychologically, the system knew how humans would react when they receive even a little bit of knowledge. Because even a little bit of knowledge makes you dangerous. That's what my mom said once when I went to that landmark forum way back when. Trying to get her to do it, trying to get my sister to do it. They're like, oh, you should read a book. Oh, Jillian, I've already been through that before. I'm not joining your little group of landmark forum and this and that. And then she said, even a little bit of knowledge makes you dangerous, Jillian. I'm like, oh, Jesus, okay. My mom, she's a fucking smart lady. So that's where I get my smarts from, my mother. Psychologically, the system knew how humans would react when they receive even a little bit of knowledge that might be more than the average person. In my experience, the people become addicted to the feelings of power of being in the know, and the system used them to their advantage. And once the blueprint was finalized, okay, they even used me. I mean, I was a counterculture person back then. In the 1990s and 2000s, I wore the big boots of all the way up to my knees and tight jeans with holes in them and whatever. And I looked like some, I don't know what I was trying to look like, a poser, I guess. My mom said, yeah, you're counterculture. Well, yeah, I was bred to be counterculture of whatever was going on that day to then cause the resistance, to cause them the political resistance. So right now, all truthers and the world are experiencing the rollout of the blueprints we truthers have been squawking about for years, and we have helped the world get ready for it. We never could stop the changes because it was never meant to be stopped. We were bred to lead activism against the changes, causing friction, resistance, and then self-annihilation, or end up as someone's example of what not to do. So then you see the January 6th and those guys that were prosecuted for what they were part of. If one resisted so hard, inevitably breaking the laws, and they end up in jail. So with that said, how will you save yourself through all the changes? And again, save can mean so many different things. Jesus could save you. Who knows? Okay, I don't know what save means in your world. Or are you too far gone and you will take your truthing and burn through the last lifeline? Only you know. And when you die and you spent years in the truth community, what was it all for? You worked for the government. You were and are controlled opposition. That's how the system got you, because you did not know enough to understand resistance is futile. You were just used as cannon fodder. So what we did is no different than someone joining the military, fighting foreign wars. That's why I was not programmed for anything specific. They were waiting for me to do what I'm doing later on. That's why Generation X is a crapshoot. So everything that's happening today, I would say was somewhat expected. I couldn't even tell you how the hell I ended up where I ended up. When I'm watching Grey's Anatomy and I'm listening to some of the lines, and this girl in there was saying that she's from Columbus, Ohio, and all this stuff, I hear the word Ohio used in so many different of these storylines, even on the TV shows and the movies. What is it about Ohio? What was it that I was attracted to? I mean, yeah, I was when I was in my bed, was at Elk Grove, and before I was going to work, and I wouldn't be have to work till 9 because I'd work like a swing shift because I was doing the cold calling. And so when I found my husband on Fast Flirt, and you know, and all my dating apps that I had were always geared toward the East Coast. It was never for anyone in California. It was never anyone in locally. It was always someone across it. I'm like, fuck it, you know. I was getting tired of Match.com, getting tired of Yahoo Personals, getting tired of all that. And there was no one in my natural world that I was going to get together with. So it was like the internet or bust, right? Well, that app, Fast Flirt, was just people across the East Coast. And it was someone like in Ohio. And my husband, he's the one that said hi to me first. And I said hi to him second. And then, I don't know. And then that train left the station. I couldn't, and then it was touch and go for the 6 months because he had a girlfriend here temporarily. He was in between stuff, but I forced that situation absolutely, because even when we weren't talking towards the end, and I negotiated with my district manager at the time, so I knew what I was going to do. I was going to leave California, but I needed money to do it. But I wasn't tied to anyone specific. But I knew that there's a lot of new agents coming through districts, because that's when Farmers Insurance was doing all the reserve agents, bringing them in and seeing if they can hack it, and also bringing in policies. If they couldn't make it to be an agent, then at least during their initiation time, I guess, to see if they can hack it, they would get the 30 policies that would then qualify you to be to the next level. So I then petitioned the district manager that I would get this one agent through by giving him the 30 policies plus the life insurance policies. And I would want $2,500 in return to do that. And I knew my capability. I was working for so many different agents. I can cold call like the best of them, get in the door and slam them down on a policy and sell what I needed to sell. And so, yeah, I made $2,500 in 1 month just selling those policies, and I left. And I said, okay, I'm going to Ohio. I don't know where I was going to stay, because him and I weren't talking. And I just winged it. So I'm going to Ohio. I'm just going to go, because what else am I going to do? So and when I looked at Craigslist and found a place to stay with a lady, and she's like, really? You're going to come to Ohio? And then I called Jason, and I was in between, I was on the salt flats of Utah, and I was like, yeah, I'm on my way to where you are. I have a roommate from Craigslist. And he was like, what? You have a roommate from Craigslist? okay, you're not gonna go to Craigslist. You're not. You're gonna stay with me and all that. And so he got rid of the girlfriend that was then at the time, and that's where it all began. That was the beginning of the beginning. So I couldn't tell you exactly how everything is so synchronistic, but it is. My husband will be 49 this year. 13th Super Bowl, 9 and 4, 13 is our 13th year of marriage. It's just really synchronistic. It's really, really eerie. There is a master plan out there. I just don't know. I just don't know how. It's just weird. There is a master plan. There really is a master plan. What you're doing right now is what you were meant to do. If you have enough strength, you could potentially redirect. But what's going on is meant to happen. I just hope that you know that when you know that you can redirect, that was meant to happen. When you don't know you can redirect, it's meant to happen. Whatever happens right now from this point forward is meant to happen. I hope you have what it takes to survive what is meant to happen for you. Okay? All right, bye.